Today, we are talking about trusting yourself to break free. And this video is an energetic read of a podcast I just recorded on the Energy Linguist podcast. The messaging that was coming through from Divinity today on this podcast was around this truth that we are often saying, externally speaking, that we want more out of life, that we want different, more abundance, more freedom, healthier relationships, deeper impact. And what they've revealed on the podcast is that what's in the way, that limit, it doesn't have to do with strategy, doesn't have to do with skill. It's not even necessarily a particular limiting belief because we try to narrow it down to a thing. It's not necessarily a thing. What they're pointing to is that there is a vibration that exists within the core, this deeper part that doesn't really want our lives to change at all. And so I want to invite you into listening to that podcast. But first, the reason I came here on YouTube today live to make this video is because I really feel called to start doing an energetic read of the transmissions that are coming through on the podcasts. When I am on the podcast, I am receiving live channeled guidance. I'm very fortunate that my channel is constantly open to the infinite intelligence and that source information that is always here guiding us. And because of that, I'm able to tune in and translate those messages for you to help you awaken on your own path. And what I do know to be true is that when I'm in the channeling of these messages on the podcast, I'm seeing the nuances of the field. I'm seeing the energy play and the energy work. And so today I want to dive into that for you specifically as it pertains to episode 33, Trust Yourself to Break Free. What I first saw in the field of energy when I started getting this message around this tug of war, the dichotomy that exists in the system of I say I want change, but I don't really want anything to change at all. I want all of the new stuff, but I don't want to have to release the old stuff, the old life, the old relationships, the old paradigm. I just want to mold it and bring it with me. I don't really want to let go of it, right? That tug of war. When I started seeing that coming through, what I actually saw happening in the field was this energy around the mind. Now, typically, they're conveying information with me in the field by showing me this dance of this energy of our system. And what I saw within the mind was a lot of cloudedness, where usually there's this vibrant, visionary energy. There was this cloudedness that was heavy and dense around choice. And what they were illustrating to me in this visual is that choice is running our minds, meaning there's this over analytical piece of trying to see what's next, of overthinking what we're choosing, of trying to make sure it's the right thing, it's the best thing, that it's going to be the choice that has the less amount of pain on the path. Right? It's always this constant trade-off of our system trying to evaluate, is it worth the price that we're going to pay? Now, stick with me on the Energy Linguist podcast because we're going to dive into another episode about the prices that we pay. Depending on when you're watching it, it might already be live, so please check it out. What I want to talk to you about is the energy that's in the field, because as we started to move down the field, what I saw was there was an enormous block in the throat chakra energy. And when I'm talking about throat chakra, we're not just talking about the ability to express and speak. We're talking about our center of freedom, our center of manifestation. And this center also holds the trust in our divine knowing, meaning the visions that you have, the inspirations that get downloaded to you. Do you trust them enough to not just speak about them, but to allow them to be integrated in the system in a way that you will then act in accordance with them? Because when we truly trust what it is we're seeing and hearing and the inspiration we're receiving that is beyond anything of this world, it's the bigger visions. It's the one that scare us, that excite us, that drive us forward, that embody the change that we desire for the world to see. And when we truly believe in those, we don't just speak about the things we want, because sometimes we're speaking about the things we want and it's just buried in complaint. And when we're focused on it through the lens of, I wish I have this, with the energy of just, I don't have it, I feel like I'm lacking, we actually are unintentionally manifesting lack into our lives. However, when we start to really be in the conviction of that which we see, allowing us not to have the cloudedness of over-analyzing, over-evaluating to try to calculate the best decision, but just truly being in the receiving and the trust of what is possible in our lives, we start to not just speak in accordance with it, but to act in accordance with it. Because our willingness to act, meaning to move the physical form into action, it means the densest, most physical expression of the self, to move and motivate that energy forward. We must really be engaged with that trust and that belief on a deeper level. So there's invisible parts of us, that spiritual core, that emotional core, the beliefs of the mind, the thoughts must be in alignment for us to then choose to act upon that which we are seeing as a possibility for the self. And so when I saw that energy, I knew that divinity was channeling the message for episode 33 for all of you to hear, so that we could not just deal with the cloudedness that's in the mind, the over-calculating, this, how do I keep this but also get this, right? Because it's almost like trying to compromise. Like, I'd like all this new stuff, but I don't want any loss. I don't want any loss. And I understand. I have been there firsthand. I have lost and continue to lose so much. But when it's in a choice that is for the betterment of yourself, when you truly are in the embodiment of loving the self so much, you will understand that the pain you're experiencing is often out of love for the self and the love and the trust of what you're here to contribute to the world, what you're here to do for the world, which also means love of others, right? There's a difference between responsibility for others, when we are just hoping that if we could just work hard enough on those that we don't want to let go of, that we could help lift them to grow with us, right? Which then wastes our energy. It redirects and puts all of our resources into people who aren't really willing to do the work for themselves, versus the willingness to let them go. The choice is always theirs to make, to rise, to do the work. It's always there. It's always available to them. And to then direct our energy towards our greater mission, our greater purpose, so that the souls who really are hungry for it and they're willing to do the work for themselves also, for the world also, can rise to that level, right? So yes, it's about you. And it always should be, first and foremost, about the love of the self, unconditional love of the self. Not obligations, but just truly knowing and honoring that which you are, that in which you see the world differently, and being willing to invest in that piece of you so that you can then touch the lives and inspire the people you're meant to inspire. That ripple effect. And so really being in the conviction and the trust of that which we see, that which we feel ignited towards, the world we wish existed that matters to us, we must be able to kind of clear the cloudedness of the mind, to not try to calculate and compromise so much, but just to be in the trust and the willingness to move in the direction of that which we see. And so what's really powerful about Energy Linguist podcast is I'm not just translating and transmitting messages from the divine. We're clearing the field when I do it. And so what I'm explaining to you that I saw in the field prior to recording that podcast is what we have been clearing on. And this reading allows you to clear it even further. And so the mind element we started to clear, right? We're clearing it by bringing you into the awareness of the truth that exists beneath all of the stories, beneath all the resistance, the invisible resistance, right? We experience the real resistance in our material world, but sometimes we don't understand what's creating the resistance on that lower level, in the unconscious existence, in the invisible vibration of the self. And so now the podcast has revealed that to you so that it no longer has to control that which you're engaging with. The other part here about the choice being blocked, the throat chakra, and in fact, I kept feeling the urge to clear my throat, right? To clear this out, to open it up. That part being blocked is because of not being in the trust of that which we see. And so moving these fields together and opening this up to say, I want to choose myself, but not just say externally that I'm choosing myself, but to actually choose myself so deeply within that I'm willing to act in accordance with it, is what starts to bring your creative manifestation center back online to truly set you free. When I went further into the field, what I actually saw existing within the heart chakra space, instead of this vibrant green and or pink energy that I usually see, was a lot of red root chakra energy, dominantly on the right side of the field. And when they illustrate it to me in that way, what they are conveying with that energy on the right side of the field is that you are giving of yourself out of survival. And so they're bringing back in awareness around the calculated energy as well, where you're calculating how you're giving, how you're contributing of yourself, maybe how you are acting out the direction you're taking in your life based on survival. So they're showing me something really interesting right now. When they say survival, if all of you have not yet seen my free masterclass called Soul Codex, please do yourself a favor. Allow yourself to receive it. It is free. There's no catch. Please bless yourself with it, because they're showing me you need to see what's in that to expand upon what I'm about to tell you here. But the piece I want to share with you here around the survival mechanism is that it's not just about surviving financially, though it can be. It's not just about surviving like to protect the self or stay safe. It is. What you'll discover in Soul Codex, and it'll show you all of the patterns and why this is happening, is that a lot of the time self-preservation and the protective mechanism that is rising for our survival has to do with this guardedness of trying to make sure that we don't lose love, that we're not rejected, that we're not ostracized by our family or our friends or society. And so a lot of the times we try to lead from this soul-led place, but we want to try to do it in a way that's acceptable or palatable for the world. It's like, I don't want to be too far out there. And what they're saying is that the world needs you to be way far out there right now. We do not need more of the same. We need the different. And so I know it feels safer to even congregate with spiritual people who might be saying the same things or doing the same things. Sometimes we feel at home there. And you're also being not just granted permission. I was going to say granted permission, but they're like, no, they're being like pushed into saying it differently, saying it loudly, doing it differently, sharing a unique perspective, and starting to lean into creating new modalities, new methods of care. If you are interested in learning more on how to ignite your infinite creativity and to connect with what your unique medicine is, I really want to invite you to either comment here below, or on Instagram, you can DM me directly. And I say this because one of the biggest things in the way of our success as spiritual business owners, spiritual entrepreneurs, spiritual leaders of any sorts, healers, caregivers. The majority of my clients are in the caregiving of counseling and therapists. There's doctors, there's nurses, there's energy healers, sound healers, all of the things you can imagine. If you find yourself wanting to give of yourself and help the world in a more holistically balanced way, meaning whole way, addressing the whole system and not just pieces of it, I really want to invite you to message me and talk to me about your unique medicine. Because with the way that this messaging is coming through right now, what divinity is saying is that you're not just here to keep offering the thing that you know works and that the rest of the world already knows works, even though we know that some people are still figuring it out. You have a unique medicine. You have something different to offer. There's a way in which your success and the impact you're meant to have on the world is directly tethered to the unlocking of discovering how you're actually different. And when we don't feel safe, we don't actually access the most different part of ourselves. We don't want to be rejected for being different. We haven't even granted ourselves permission. And in part, it's because we've shown up our whole life, even as children. Every time we were different, often we experienced pain because of it. Whether it's because other children rejected us, or maybe the family was like, hey, this isn't the proper time to sing or behave like this. A lot of the times, our parents' own insecurities were unintentionally placed on us because they would see us being loud and bold and proud and different, and it would make them contract because of the memories they had in themselves about pain. And so I'm sharing that with you because there's an opportunity for you to discover that you are different for a very important reason, and that I can absolutely help you get to the core of what that is, so that the methods you create, the medicine you share, is so uniquely you that you are touching the lives of people you're meant to touch in a different way in the world that changes the game for so many people. And so if you're interested, find a way to reach me. I'm available to help talk to you about maybe what's next for you on your path. The last part that I saw in the field right before I jumped on to recording it, and then of course while I was in the recording of podcast episode 33, was this blocked third eye energy that was carrying a lot of sacral energy. Now, what was interesting about this, because we've already talked about this, the mind, the visionary third eye space being clouded, but it wasn't existing there. As I started to work down the system, beyond the heart chakra, when we were talking about it being kind of driven and you being in the giving of the survival, just below that, where I would start to get into that solar plexus energy or the sacral energy, root energy, I saw a similar root survival blockage, but it was holding energy of the third eye, right? Which they've already kind of explained to you with my invitation to discover your unique medicine. Because what they're saying here is that the third eye energy is being blocked by the fear. It is being blocked by this desire to, like, I want to be different, but I don't want to be so different that it creates pain. I want a new life, but I don't want a new life if it means I have to have the pain of letting go of the old, right? There's this inconsistent messaging within the system with what we say versus how we really feel on the deeper layers. It's why I'm inviting you into Soul Codex, is because that will actually help to start heal on some of those layers so that this becomes easier for you, because it's not always just about like wrestling ourselves or like pumping ourselves up to go and do the thing. We have to be willing to understand what exists in the system and hold space for that in order for it to then move on its own. We don't have to wrestle with it all the time because we've been wrestling a lot. Sometimes we just need to give the space to let it move. And so what was interesting about this blocked energy that was being held is that it wasn't just third eye, which is the creative vision, the divine downloads that come through. It was sacral energy as well, which is a material chakra center that houses our vulnerability, our creativity, our playfulness, this explorative energy of the human self, which means that fear is holding tight on your willingness to be vulnerable in your exploration of what you're here to create. There's this kind of shackles of energy on it. And so the reason that they are showing me all of this in the field, and the reason that they transmitted this message that I shared on the podcast today, is because when these fields are contracted, especially when we're looking at that sacral energy contracting or the heart maybe being led by fear, there's this energy of the solar plexus that exists in between those fields that is meant to be our internal compass. And what our solar plexus holds is our personal power. It's our identity. It is the I can energy. And the biggest piece that it holds that pertains to this particular reading and this particular podcast is the invaluable nature of the self. When we talk about personal power, we're really talking about the energy of self-worth, of saying, I am worthy. And what you'll notice is that if we don't feel worthy, if we don't feel confident, if we don't feel like I can, then we don't trust the self. A common imbalance, an expression of an imbalance in the solar plexus energy is lack of self-trust. So it's not trusting the self. And when we don't trust the selves, we are not willing to move into the unknown, into the unfamiliar, not necessarily because of the pain we might experience there, but simply because we don't know if we can trust ourselves to navigate something that isn't already stored in the mind. Right? And so instead we stay frozen in our survival. We allow the fear to run our heart-led businesses. We allow the fear to contract around our unique medicine and our unique ideas. And we never fully, no matter how hard we're trying in the world, get into serving the world in the way that we're meant to. And so this is devastating, not just for you, who will live in lack and won't receive the abundance that you deserve to receive for being of service to the world in the way that you're meant to be, but to those you're meant to serve, because you're not showing up as fully as the self. And so I'm here to really grant you the permission today to receive these messages as clearings, as healings, to see that there is an answer within you, that when we reorganize the system, it starts to then magnetize the success, the impact, the freedom, the abundance, the relationships, the peace that you are seeking. And we can do that all from within inside the self. You are not here where you are in your contribution to the world, in your path of awakening, because you're not willing to try. You're here because you are willing to try. You've been working hard as ever to wrestle with the exterior world. And if that was the answer, you would already have all of the things you desire, because there's no lack of effort in you. I know that because you've aligned with me. Period. You're here. So you've been trying. So there's no problem with you. Often the problem is where we're directing the energy. And so now your invitation is to turn it within. I want to invite you to continue to keep your ears on Energy Linguist podcast and to keep checking out this YouTube for more readings on those podcasts. And you can find me on Instagram at the.energy.linguist. There, you will also have an opportunity for some free guidance if you want to DM me any questions that you might have rise from the podcast, or maybe it's just something within your life that you feel like you want some insight from highest guidance on. I pick a few every single week to then go live and share confidentially, without naming you, answers to the questions that might be pressing and might be on your heart. So if you're interested, feel free to find me there. Let's connect. And until then, just keep holding yourself in the sacredness that you are. You deserve to rise to the level that you know you can. And I'm here to hold you within that evolution. Have an awesome day. I'll see you soon. Bye.